Hi guys, welcome to Deep Dive here on Iconic. This week I have a good friend of mine, Dean Henderson. Dean hasn't been on this show before, but he's been on my Glitches in the Code podcast, which you can find on iconic.com a few times, and it's always great to chat to him. What I want to speak to Dean about today is something that not a lot of people actually cover. Dean covers this in depth in his book, The Crown Nephilim and 5G Apocalypse, and it's this cult. The cult that David talks about, a lot of us talk about, and where it came from. And it goes all the way back to Mesopotamia, into Babylon, and all the way up to the Caucasus Mountains. It's the Crown Nephilim. It ties into these biblical stories of Noah and the Noahide laws and everything that came off of like the flood of Gilgamesh, which is the same as the Noah flood. These stories, and it's about this bloodline that survived the flood and came down from the Caucasus Mountains into Babylon, Sumeria, Mesopotamia, and they eventually became the pharaohs and the kings and the bloodlines of today. So how did this happen? And we can see the back end of this playing out in Jerusalem, in the Middle East at the moment with the new Solomon's Temple. They're talking about building this third Solomon's Temple, which is actually going ahead as we speak. Everybody's looking over here. Everybody's distracted over there with the coronavirus, crown virus, and also the Russian and Ukraine war, but they're not looking at this stuff as it goes on in the background. So Dean says about the history of this cult. So who are they? They're the Crown Nephilim. For at least 8,000 years, Dean says, humanity has been enslaved, abused and genocided by a small but ruthless group of planetary interlopers. Numerous researchers have chronicled the stories and writings of this intervention in places like Sumeria, as I mentioned before, Babylon and ancient Egypt. Some of these are called the Anunnaki. We see a lot of that coming out in the History Channel at the moment, obviously very watered down. The Anunnaki, others know them as aliens or ancient aliens, and their modern day equivalent, Dean says, could very well be AI, which I believe will be housed in Solomon's Temple, very much like the TV series Westworld, where the actual temple there where the AI is housed is named after the son of Solomon. The symbology is everywhere and it's in your face if you know what you're looking for. The fall of humanity described in the Garden of Eden story represents the DNA experimentation done by the Nephilim. The Nephilim are the fallen angels, so they're demigods that was brought to earth and they mated with the humans, and that's what the biblical story about Adam and Eve is. The mating of the Nephilim with Eve to produce the hybrid Cain bloodline, and this is the bloodline we're looking at today, and the temptation of mankind to eat from the tree of knowledge, that's symbolised by the Apple logo. So we've all got the computers there, we're looking at the tree of knowledge. The Apple logo represents that, and it's absolutely everywhere in all these corporations. If you know what, again, you're looking for, MTV is Masonic TV. The very first MTV building was in a Masonic building on the corner there. They were known as the tribe of Dan, the Canaanites, the Egyptian pharaohs, and the builders of the Holy Roman Empire, who destroyed the Egyptian Library of Alexandria. Now, the Library of Alexandria would have been kind of like the true version of the internet.
We cannot carry so many.
We need more help. Please go and get my father out of here. Get him out of here now.
That was taken apart slowly over a few hundred years by the Roman Empire, slowly burnt to the ground. A lot of this information is said to and rumoured to by many researchers to still exist in the vaults of the Vatican at the moment. Today, they are known as the Royal and Black Nobility, who can collectively call them, we can collectively call them the Crown Nephilim or the Idol Crown, sitting above the 33 degrees, as in Freemasonry, which is the Knights Templar. The Crown Nephilim spread out from Mesopotamia, which is Sumeria, to the Roman Empire, and now run their business dealings through the city of London and a square mile within London, and that's what we're going to be talking with Dean about today.
A city as young as each new morning, yet endowed with a wisdom that only comes with age. The city's guilds and companies of craftsmen are the direct survivals of the ancient trades of London. Their objects, fellowship, charity, and the guarding of quality.
There is a hierarchy here, so we'll quickly just go over this crown hierarchy and the pyramid of control at the moment. So according to Dean Henderson and many other researchers as well, the pyramid goes something like this. Variants, and there's different kind of ways of looking at them, but something like this. The Crown Nephilim families, the Idol Crown at the top. The Council 33, obviously the 33 bloodline vertebrae is there, the 33 degrees of Freemasonry. The Committee of 300 is below them. Priory of Sion, a lot of people don't think it exists. I tend to believe it did exist. That has a lot to do with getting the bloodline of Jesus apparently out of Jerusalem into France, and we have a lot about their that story as well. It appeared in Dan Brown's books. I'm not saying his stuff was true, it was terribly warped, but there was elements weaved in there of some truth, whether it is or not, whether they want us, this cult, to believe that the bloodline of Jesus still exists, or whether it actually does, who knows. But that's the story, and it doesn't really matter if we believe these things. I'm not saying I believe these things. It matters that this cult and these very rich, wealthy bloodlines that go back thousands of years, they believe these things. The Rosicrucians are below the Priory of Sion, and then we have the Royal Societies, and that's what we come up to the last 100 years and what you see today as the 7 sacred science tentacles. These bloodlines are still in power today. In the shadows, one, if not the main headquarters, is the City of London, home to the Bank of England, House of Parliament, Downing Street, and it's all guarded by the Knights Templar dragons, which you will see when you go into the City of London. The dragons there and the statues of the dragons, which represent possibly this reptilian bloodline. Again, I'm not saying they are reptilian, I'm saying that the bloodline is possibly different from ours in terms of its DNA, and they believe themselves to be a different bloodline to us. But maybe they believe they're connected to Jesus through this bloodline, who knows. But there's definitely something to this narrative, whichever way you look at it. And if we don't believe it, these people do. So I'm going to talk to Dean about where this all is heading through the technology, the 5G implementation that we're seeing going around the world, the Great Reset and the Rockefeller Great Transition. This is all playing out before us if you know what to look for. And Dean is an expert in this information, especially to do with the crown corporations, and he'll be able to give you some insight into what's happening with the economy. This has all been done on purpose, and there is an end goal. Hope you enjoy the interview. Please leave comments below, and we'll speak soon. Take care. Goodbye.